Hello, it's day 142 of 365 days towards racial change. My name is Tomlin's Nyback, and we're here talking about black issues in America, whether or not blacks are progressing, getting better. The plight of blacks in America, is there concern? Is it real? Um, how are we getting along? Are we moving freely in the world and in America especially? We're looking at history, precedents, attitudes, behaviors of a lot of different groups and peoples, economic situations, constructs, business models, plans, discrimination, uh, slavery, history, all the above. Two thoughts emerge as I continue this project. First is that the mind of Americans, blacks and whites, as the black mind, is it still perpetuating slavery? Attitudes of self-sabotage, um, being at a disadvantage in America, um, to themselves and to others? Are they still behaving badly? Do they not know how things work, processes in America? And conversely, do white people have attitudes of domination, privilege, expectations of power? Do they continue to pass that on from generation to generation through education, through their attitudes, through all these things? I find in my experience, a view, but I want you to do your own thinking, and I want you to do your own personal journey on these issues. Whether you agree or disagree, I think it's an important piece of education to do, especially if you're American. And then my second burden is for um, people, especially black people, to have some financial education, literacy, understanding the power of the dollar, how the American dollar works. Oh, the Federal Reserve System, understanding markets, understanding why markets fluctuate and all that, understanding real estate, whether a home is an asset or a liability, what is an asset or a liability, disposable income. All these things are important for blacks to understand and to model. Our discussion today is going to be heavily economic as we move through and continue in uh, our series here at 365 Days Towards Racial Change. Again, I am Tomlin's Nyback. I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson, and he's written three excellent works. Now, this first book, I want you to get, if you're interested in following along, this book is kind of the nexus of everything that we talk about. Nice broad book and scope about the problems between blacks and whites in America. First is this book, A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. And he reveals issues and things going on in America, in the fabric, in the public of America that makes us understand why blacks are at a disadvantage, why blacks struggle harder, struggle more in America. Black labor, white wealth, search for power, and economic justice in America. We're going to be referencing this book today. Look at page 207 in there, and you'll see what we're talking about today, cultural foundations for economic power. We'll get more into that in just a moment. And also, Dr. Anderson's book, Powernomics, Dr. Anderson's national plan to empower Black America. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com and the Heritage Institute in Washington, D.C. Look him up. He's all over here on YouTube. He's not a hard guy to find. And he talks about these issues, obviously, much more elegantly than I ever will. So, like I said, today we're in Black Labor, White Wealth. Oh, a few more other resources for you. I'm on a little anxious, excited day. Behind me, you'll see the hashtag #Us2 symbol. You'll find Black women supporting each other's conversing there. Go to Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, for more forums and communities that intersect, interact with. It's kind of a Black Facebook. And if you found me here on the World Wide Web, you can find your community, your flavor, or start your own. And finally, we take a fictional look at fictional account of slave life in America. Harriet Beecher Stowe's phenomenal work, Uncle Tom's Cabin. It's very important. I have finished reading the book, but we're just kind of walking through it as the year continues, and we find some interesting tidbits and things we might not have known about slave life and aspect of slave life in America. All right. Today, Black Labor, White Wealth, page 207, Foundations for Economic Power. Dr. Anderson's burden, I think his main goal, if I'm understanding his videos and his works correctly, is to see the Black community, Black culture, Black race, although the Black isn't a race. We'll go over that again, I'm sure, as the year continues. The Blacks are not racist, are not part of the race. As if I understand Dr. Anderson's work correctly, but Blacks we're vulnerable, we're a minority, we bear the majority of dysfunction of the nation, and I would venture to say the world. You know, we're a manipulated people based on the color of our skin, and that is a serious issue. You know, something that's so apparent. You know, other groups, you know, maybe they have language barriers, or there are gender issues and things like that. Those are kind of things people navigate. People have to come out and reveal. But the color of skin is always apparent, and it's just such an easy target. I think it goes further and deeper into the heart of man. You know, something about mankind and the darkness of skin. There's a relation between expectations and abuse, and a lot of interesting dynamics go on when the color of one's skin comes into play. Now, so for Dr. Anderson, I believe, I don't have this from him personally, I'm just inferring this from his writings and videos, that he wants to see Black people participate, come back to a place of control in business, politics. You know, he wants to see us as a group forging our own way in the world, not constantly adapting and mastering the white aftermath, so to speak, where, you know, we and a lot of other groups just live in the wake of white progress and power. You know, it's really shameless. And sometimes, you know, I feel it kind of sticking to me. It just oozes over everything. You know, a lot of great progress, a lot of great things going on, but you don't see other, so many other contributions are obscured underneath this white umbrella. You know, it just shines so brightly, and very little genuine participation of other groups, valid participation, comes to the surface, unless we are within the white context mastering some white activity. It's very sad. You find, it's hard, true innovation from groups other than whites is hard to find. So Dr. Anderson wants the black issues to be more visible, more in control, more determining more of our destiny as a group. Very hard to do when we are, inundated and pressured on all sides by this white power that encapsulates and is an enclosure to us. And as we reach up, the bar raises as we reach out. Things first for what whites have, that power and control, and to reach outside of it, very difficult, very difficult. So first, let me review two terms that are important for the discussion and maybe carrying forward for another day or two. Ethno-aggregation and vertical integration. We've talked about this consistently, but just to get us back, make sure we're on the same page. Ethno-aggregation is an ethnicity controlling a resource or product service within their own group. The Italians with the garment industry, things like that. The docks of New York. If you think about that, I've delivered there. It's dominated. It's an Italian-dominated industry. Jews with banking, law, Irish out with alcohol. We can make that association. You might say, well, the blacks have a lot of ethno-aggregation in industry like sports or entertainment or music like that. No, we're participants. We're not necessarily in control of those sectors, as we're going to get to in a moment. Vertical integration is to control the processes within a service or product from the ground floor, its raw materials, harvesting those materials to bringing a finished product or service to the public. That's vertical integration. So those two dimensions, very important. You're going to hear Dr. Anderson talk about that consistently. Again, we got plenty of examples of black people participating in industries all over the place, but they're not in control of those industries. They're not, creating their own monopoly, so to speak. Or they're not enjoying consistently enjoying the same overwhelming benefits of the white community or other communities. So those are just some things we need to keep in mind. So having those two definitions, ethno-aggregation, vertical integration, we can move forward here. He begins in this section, if you see the page, with artists and entertainment. And let me just my feeling, I just put everything under entertainment. Or sports, game show hosts, talk show hosts, even the evening news. That's an entertainment. That's, it's mass marketed. It's controlled by white folks. They have industry standards and things like that. They control all that. And I especially put athletes as entertainment because, the athletics isn't athletics for the sake of physical mastery and, competition and like that, because when Colin Kaepernick knelt down on the sidelines in a protest during the national anthems, white America's treatment towards blacks. And I'm glad he did that. I even did a little, just some cursory research on the internet. He's very involved personally in his community, and he has a heart, a genuine heart for black folks. So he's kneeling down, and suddenly his career is in shambles. He can't play in the NFL anymore. See, that's the white powers controlling and coming in and dictating the behavior of athletes. You know, um, it has a value. White power is putting a value on its public expression of itself to the NFL, and even this has even went up into the White House. A lot big to do. Not much nowadays. You don't hear much about it, but it's big to do. Um, I would say, as far as entertainment, I put evening news on the entertainment. Your evening news from 5 to 7 with an anchor. That's entertainment. That's shock value. They're keeping your jaw dropped and you're in awe of things going on in and around your community, especially if you're in a big city or old city. Detroit, LA, Philly, DC, New York, Chicago. You're going to the top of the piece. They need to shock you with some gun violence and all this stuff, all this foolishness coming out. And now I don't watch it anymore. I watch CNN, so I watch more of a sophisticated, white collar, white dominated crime and stuff like that. But growing up, I did live in proximity to a major city, and every night, and my father demanded it, with his beer and cigarette when he came home. After work, you turn on the evening news, and boom, it's something in the black community, and there's caution tape and flashing lights and statistics and gun violence and covered black bodies. It's like, I mean, it's a serious issue, but it's, you need to understand it's an entertainment. It's to capture you, and it's bracketed and framed with commercialism and all these things. And it's grabbing that fear factor in us. I think we even have a show called Fear Factor. Any fear show probably does well as you see the human individual be presented with these incredible circumstances. So that was when I was growing up. You see that, and I'm sure it's still the same in a lot of major cities. Woe to the group that finds itself singled out every day on the evening news, because that group is probably struggling. Uh, we have more representations of other groups. I know the Hispanic community gets their fair share as well, but that's just me growing up. The blacks got that nice little spotlight at the top of the news hour, that they'd killed off each other in their broken down inner city state. That's entertainment. It's the people that are producing it, bringing it to the public, are well paid and all that, but the blacks, they carry the water. They do the menial work of that. They may be the gatherers of the raw materials, the blue collar, the heavy lifting portion, employee portion of that process. But then as you get up into management and things like that, ownership, it becomes overwhelmingly white. For those, I just looked on the internet, there's black-owned businesses and music businesses and things like that. I'm not saying that blacks are not represented. I'm just saying blacks are not, right, especially with the music industry, blacks are not the controllers of it, you know. It was interesting. I went to college, did a little music business study, and like there were two white guys in New York that controlled the length of your records, and you had to go through them. It was like you had to get permission from them to like perform music and stuff like that. Like they were a licensing organization. Yeah, and like, and this is indicative of America. We're sitting there, and nobody's shocked or incredulous about this monopoly on entertainment at the time. I'm like, what are you talking about? Uh, it's a just Google. I don't think it's the Koch brothers. I forget who it was, but they ran the American music business, things like that. So I mean that's the craziness about America, and you still see America trying to, especially, well, everybody else kind of follows along, but especially white America just is bent on, well, they want to control everything. Well, they're going to put a tax on breathing air one of these days. They kind of do with the clean air uh, legislations and things like that. But people want to license and own and patent everything nice and quick so that everybody has to put out their little chunk of change. Like me, I know how to write my own programs and stuff like that. But there's been some kind of flip flop, where any kind of app you make now, there's a rental on it, because these major, yeah, computer manufacturing houses and internet people, uh, if you're going to run it on their platform, you need to pay some kind of fee and stuff. It's nice to sit back and get fat, but that's not the values I grew up on. Okay. Okay. So back to this foundations for economic power for Black folks. I confess, yeah, there's Black companies, and as far as we think about Motown Records and that great family, great dynasty started um, businesses like that, but they're always confined and they're pushed aside, held hostage until they kind of submit to the white authorities, and then they call it going mainstream. You know, um, I think blacks should really hold and stick to their guns. From what I did just this morning in my search, it looks like we are gathering more of our own uh, sense of control and power in especially the music entertainment industry, which I think is important because we bring the dance, we bring the music. I can't go down the street. It's actually comical to see a white person rapping out loud. It's really comical to me. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You know, and I gotta admit, I'm a little biased. I'm not for uh, that music, that that demonstration of the art. I'm a rock and roller. Rock and roll is black art. You know, Black men and women maximize the guitar and instruments and things like that, and we are the leaders in that jazz as well. You know, we put the swing and the rhythm in music. You know, from our African roots. You know, we did that. So it's just interesting. So we should control that. You know, being the inventors, being the innovators, we should be the controllers. But too many of the group are, I think, sidetracked by the money. Money's a big issue. You can't get around it. But it's a, we need a sense of loyalty. You see, I look at other groups. I think I mentioned Hmong the other day, HMONG, and you know that group is rising up. They're starting to get some national attention. You know, I'm sure they had to, sacrifice and put off some of that gratification, so that the group collectively could rise up. You know, you're not going to have. It's going to be a challenge for blacks to do that. Now let's look, thinking real quickly off the top of our head. We got issues of the meritorious manumission dynamic, and some of the conditioning embedded upon the black people that keeps them from organizing collectively, coming together and moving as a group. We got our little pockets, and we got a lot of disjointed groups. If we ever come together more holistically, more collectively, then we're going to be making some challenges to the world. Look, we had our own baseball league that was decimated by white money. We had our own bus line that was decimated by civil rights and social integration. We blacks need to begin that move towards true group unity, to begin moving out from under the control of this white-dominated society and other groups who are hostile to white progress, growth, and success. This is day 142 out of the way. Black Labor, White Wealth, Cultural Foundations for Economic Power. Check out Dr. Anderson, though, on some of these resources and videos. He'll tell you much better about it than I can. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Thomas Nyback. That's 365 days towards racial change. Bye-bye.